Hi there, Robin here from Expert On. Today we're going to be talking about mixers. Not any mixer, but a specific one. This one right here, which is the Mackie MIX12FX. The FX is because it actually has special effects features on it, which is great. It's the only mix series from Mackie to have that, so we're going to take a little time, look at all the features on it. So, right off the hop, with this mixer here, you're going to have something that's very easy to carry around, very portable. It wasn't a lot to set up. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's made out of metal. It's got plastic trimming on the side to give it a nice little sporty look to it. And it's got the traditional setup when it comes to Mackie mixers. Color-coded, which is really nice. Good solid buttons. Nothing to worry about there. Mackie brags about the fact how rugged their product is and how reliable it is. Really good. On the negative side, when we look at this mixer, the first thing we noticed is there was no actual power button. Basically, it's live all the time. It's one of the things that they talk about in the instruction manual is if you're not using it, it's unattended, there's a storm, lightning, blah, 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 unplug your mixer. So that's what's going on with this guy. Now, outside of that, everything else is just plus, plus, plus. So one of the big features that I do like to have on a mixer that this one does have is a balance control. Left to right, we have that. So we can adjust it the way we want and set up the sound. Now, if we cover the inputs across the top, what we're going to see first is the first 4 lines on the 12 are for mics and line inputs. So we get the XLRs on top, we get the 1/4 inches down below. Again, this is all going to follow suit for the first 4. There's no special buttons on any one particular model, line, so we're going to go across all 4 of them at one time. So again, we start at the top, we've got our XLR and our 1/4 inch. Now remember, if you have a microphone that has a 1/4 inch jack, you're going to need an XLR for it. So that way it lines up here. Gain controls on the white button here. The 3 blue buttons that follow suit is going to be for our high, mids, and lows, so we can adjust the sound on that. Then we end up with a little button at the bottom, and that's for the 75 hertz cutoff. And that's if you have any background humming or hissing, especially if you're using this with one of the condenser microphones. You're really going to notice that. But that's to cut out that low humming sound, usually from things in the room that you can't control, like fans, air conditioners, transformers, things like that will cause issues. But if you press that button, that sound magically goes away. Then underneath that, we get our yellow button. Now, the yellowish-orange button's all the way across, and definitely starting with here, that's for our effects. We'll cover the effects in a moment, but that's how we're going to gain up our effects on this particular line. Then we have the balance button from left to right. So this way, if we want to give a more stereo sound to our feel, and we're going to want to move things to the left or right, so this way it sounds more unified with how we're actually playing, you can do that here. And then there's our line level control. So the white button's down at the bottom, all across the bottom, and any other white button that's in reference, like this one here, these all reference the main. So this is how much volume we're going to put on this channel. That's going to end up coming out here. So we may have one higher than the other depending on how loud we want our instruments to be versus our microphones. So that's what's going on. So the first 4 are taken care of because they're all the same. Then we get the next 4 level gains down below here. Those lines here line up with the next 8 channels. That's where we get up to 12. So now these are things for like keyboards or guitars that go through a control box or the iBox. That allows you to plug in all up here, and they give you 8 channels like that. So lots of instruments, lots of equipment can get plugged in on the side. If you need to plug in, let's say, something like a phone or anything like that, or a tablet, and you want to bring it on, even though there's RCAs on the tape RCA inputs on top, I usually recommend using adapters to go from 1/4 inch to RCA. That way it gives you a little bit more control over that channel. Now, when we finish, if we look at actually the top panel just to finish off, so we've lined up the fact that the next 4 line controls, along with the balances and the effects, all line up with 5 and 6 as a pair, 7 and 8 as a pair, 9 and 10 as a pair, 11 and 12 as a pair. Thus our 12 channels. On top of that, we've got our main out, which are 1/4 inch, and then we've got our control room. Just wanted to make sure that's our control room, which is here. That's also 1/4 inch. Everything's 1/4 inch on this. Our effects send and our phono jack are on top here as well, and they're all laid up. Then you have your tape in, tape out. So again, this is really to help the price point, because one of the big selling features of this is you get a really reliable, dependable mixer for, and I don't normally quote the prices because they change over time, but at the time we do this video, you're looking at 120 US or 149 Canadian, making sure you get the US warranty with the US price, Canadian warranty with Canadian price. That's what's going to happen here. So that's a big sell feature, and that's why a lot of people look at this particular machine. If you need a lot of inputs, but you don't want to spend $300 or anything like that, and you want quality and reliability, that's where you're going here. Now remember, all of the Mackie mixers are, I put them in the category of commercial mixers, not consumer mixers. So if you look at some of our other videos, you'll see some consumer mixers, which will give you things like MP3, Bluetooth, all those other little bells and whistles. This one, performance-wise, is a little bit better and more reliable when you're looking at how much background noise, that sort of thing's going on. But they're doing it at pretty much a consumer price. So that's why a lot of people like buying into this mixer. Outside of that, I'll just take a quick look to make sure we've covered everything, but we've now got ourselves into some extra buttons that I didn't cover before. So if on the first 4 mics, inputs, 4 channels here, we've got the 75 ohm cutoff, on the next 4 level controls, what we have is a dB adjustment. So we've got a -10 to +4 just by pushing the button. So this way, depending on what we plugged in on top, we can just by hitting the button adjust that. And it allows us to get better control over our level without adding any background noise. So what else do we have? Again, now we're going to get into those orange buttons. So I'll take a quick look so I get everything in the right spot. So that's our main out. So I was saying the yellowish orange buttons are all our effects. The effects selector is here, and there is 12 different options to go from. So that makes it really nice so you can find what you're looking for. And again, once you choose that, you're going to decide how loud it's going to be per actual mic or line input. Most of them will probably be off. You'll have some on the mics. And then you're going to decide, well, how much of this do I want to hit the actual master volume, which is at the end? Well, that's going to get decided by this last white knob here. This knob here is going to allow me to decide how loud my effects are in proportion to my actual microphones. And then that here. So if I went 50% here, let's say, right? Then that means it'll be 50% of what's going on here. So if I put this at, we'll call it 0, and we'll say neutral is 100%. Well, if that was 100, just to give it a number, and I set this dial at 50%, then my actual effects would be half as much as my actual volume. So that's how that works. Now remember, the U is for that neutral point where basically we haven't added or taken away, we've just brought it up to what it naturally is at. That's the U. That's this point here where we kind of fall about 3/4 of the way up. So we're not adding anything, but we're not taking away anything. So if I had this at U and I had this at U, they'd both be at the equal same volume proportion. So that'll always be in reference to whatever's going on equally in the knob, just so you have a good idea of what that's going to do for you. Now, there is 2 more buttons on the side, and they make reference to the tape, and it's basically, do I want that tape to go straight to my main? So it's whatever volume level or gain level I have set on my tape. If I push that button in, it'll always be in proportion. That's why I say I like usually having my RCA options, like my phone in this case, to be plugged in here, because it gives me a little bit more control over it than having it just there. But if you're hooking it up to a laptop or to any other equipment and you think that works for you, by all means, go for it. That's why it's there. And then you also have the option on the tape to send it to the control or to the phono, which is by pushing in the second button down here. And then there's one knob here, and that's for our either control room volume or for our headphone volume. And then the very last button all by itself is our 48 volt. So if we need phantom power added to anything, we'll just be pressing that button there. They do give you a little LED meter display. I wish it was longer, but again, this is how they manage the price point. So we've got 2 green LEDs, then we got an amber, and then we got a red. So you kind of have to manage that a little bit on your side, because it's not a big running LED panel for meter display. But it does work, and it does work well. So there we go. So that covers everything. Like I said, metal box, nice plastic trimming. Buttons are real well made. Everything's smooth. There's no roughness. There's no like getting stuck on anything. So I can't really complain about that. Remember, one of the reasons why people do get the Pro FX series and spend the extra money is because it actually does have a really good working feedback system. So if you're using it in small spaces, if you're going to be taking something like this home, it's going to be used in the rec room, in the garage, anything that has horrible acoustics to it, but you really want to use that space as your fun space to play around with it, then you might want to spend a little bit more on it if you want to cut down, because I'll turn on the microphone just now here. We'll bring up the gain a little bit, and I'll show you. Now, I've done this. If you look at any of the Pro FX models, I do this test, and really, I'm going to say, it gets rid of the feedback problem pretty fast, pretty easy. But here, all I have to do is, of course, it's not going to do it for me, but here, let's bring this and adjust this all up. It doesn't take much. I mean, I just literally point at the speaker, and it goes. So if you look at the Pro FX, you'll notice that I can actually literally talk on top of the speaker, and that's not going to happen. Remember, if you want to minimize that, you're going to lose out on your effects. You can improve the amount of feedback or the amount of duration that you can get it there, but at the end of the day, you have to really make that choice. But I think that's pretty much it. I mean, everything works well. Everything sounds good. Take your time, get comfortable with it, and I think you'd enjoy it a lot. So that's pretty much everything I can probably say about it. And like I said, you do want to compare this to the Pro model and see the price difference and see if you like that added feature that you get with the Pro. You get a display and you get yourself the system that's really going to get rid of that feedback problem. But outside of that, there we go. So again, my name's Robin. We've been talking about this box right here. Let's get it set up right for you. We've been talking about the MIX12FX from Mackie. I think it's a really good machine. I think if you're looking for a mixer in this size, it's one of these you can't go wrong with. If you love everything Mackie, this is definitely going to be one of those products you're going to say, this is why I like Mackie. I like Mackie because of their mixers and this specific one right here. So there you go. If you got any questions or feedback, leave them down below. If you subscribe, thank you very much. If you haven't, hey, take a moment, hit that subscribe button. It always helps. It allows me to see what kind of folks are out there looking at the videos, and it helps me make better videos for everybody else. Awesome. See you next time. Bye now.